Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. Assalamu alaikum. Once again, peoples, you've tuned into the Voice Box, the podcast show that tries to discuss all of the issues that we face as a community, regardless of religion, race, background, color. As a community, we tend to face, the same challenges, the same issues. And inshallah, the point of this show is that we just have a chat about it. We want to, I might have a few things to say just to get off my chest. We get a few responses and contribution from the co-hosts or guests that we have on board. And, we want to hear what you think, what your thoughts are, what your experiences are. So definitely drop a comment, and give us your experiences, whatever you've got on the topic, and inshallah we just start getting chatting on about it and see what we can get. Can we find solutions? Can we highlight problems? Can we educate each other on certain topics that we probably not come across before? So inshallah, we've got today with us. I remember it's a just chilled out, nice, relaxed show. It's not class. It's not, you don't have to get your pens and books ready. It's just a conversation. There's certain things that we have a laugh, we have a joke. But at the end of the day, we inspire to inspire. We to educate ourselves and to benefit others possibly. And it's just a nice chill out. So get your cup of tea, get your cookies, get your biscuits. You know what I mean? Put that phone on your belly. Just start learning a bit, you know what I mean? And teach us a bit as well if you can. So with us today, we've got Maulana Imran. And, as usual, he's with us. And Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Akhil Aziz, Safman, I hope you've been well. Everything's all right with you, bro. Allah give you strength, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahi, Ramadan's flying, man. Wallahi, Ramadan's flying.
It's on wings, innit, bro?
10 days of Ramadan's gone and Maghfirah's right on top of us, bro. MashaAllah.
It's on wings,
Like
bro.
to say to all our listeners, welcome, alhamdulillah, and joining us on VoiceBox, being broadcasted on Shaheen UK Live on YouTube channel. Jazakallah khair for engaging with us, staying with us, bearing with us, alhamdulillah. Like Asaf said, alhamdulillah, it's about just a normal discussion, conversation. Here and there, stuff comes out. Right, something might, tickle your fancy. Alhamdulillah, if there's something that you want to tell us, there's something on your mind, there's something that you feel, 1 minute, I disagree with that. Or maybe we could look at it from a different dimension, perspective, share. If you don't share, we don't know. Do you know what I mean? So it might take the trajectory of the conversation slightly different route, which will be really cool, inshallah. Jazakallah, bro.
Yeah, man. So, what's going on lately, man? Have you, come across this video about this guy, this Arab from the media, I don't know, from UAE, saying that, Bengalis and Pakistanis, Asians, are no equal to, have you seen that video where he's saying that basically this Arab guy is from the UAE and he's like chatting about how Arabs have, basically he's there saying Bengalis and Pakistanis and Asians, he goes, they're not equal to Arabs. This is a celebrity, UAE celebrity. He goes, Na'udhu billah, Na'udhu billah. He goes, tell me, how can they be equal? You know what I mean? And that's been a bit of a highlight for the last couple of days, man. And apparently the lockdown's about to get a bit less restricted, I think.
Yeah, they're loosening a lot of stuff at this moment, which is a good thing, alhamdulillah. I was having a bit of a chat with one of my colleagues today, just generally at work, and one of the key things with youngsters is that, especially young people, alhamdulillah, there's some families, they've got a routine, they've got things going on, and young people have got into the flow and etc., which has been brilliant. But generally, it's about the whole socializing element. Do you know what I mean? Engaging with people, that people have been longing. Fine, we've got social media, we've got all of that, but it's something different being in the same space as the people that you love, you chill out with your friends, your cousins, or whoever they are. That's been difficult. And I think if they loosen the measures that they've got in place slightly, right, which inshallah ta'ala will help us. My own brother-in-law, he's in Malaysia at this moment, and he's saying, guys, it was damn strict, man. They had total lockdown. right? People coming out of a time of curfew where they were getting fined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
but the
needed
thing is, though,
paperwork.
the numbers speak for themselves, don't they? You know, let's say men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. At the end of the day, we can say they were strict, but their numbers are less than ours. What's on the population probably of Malaysia is more than ours as well.
Oh, it is many folds
Yeah,
more. No, that's what I mean. It's not only Malaysia; it's other countries as well had done the same thing. I think if there was a, it's in hindsight probably would have been better to go down a route of uh, total lockdown, and
yeah.
then slowly you open up. It would have helped. But you know what it is? Certain measures have been taken. They moved on from that position at this moment. All right, now we're going down a slightly different route of opening up and make it a bit more easy, inshallah.
Yeah, and what do you think is going to happen about the mosques, like Eid namaz and all that, prayers, and do you think they're going to open up as well, or in your opinion?
No, at the moment, that's not something which is on the table. In fact, any functions which go into a few hundred, we're not even talking thousands here. We're talking about a few hundred. It's not been accepted at that level.
Yeah,
They've been very cautious about that. Any big weddings, any big functions of any kind, especially congregations in masajid and churches and synagogues and temples and etc. Is something which is it's on the table, but it's not the priority at this moment in time, if you know what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
There's a discussion around opening on pubs, for example, but they were saying like, okay, fine, people are going to go in and there still have to be social distancing and this and that, which is not a very simple. I'm talking about the culture here within this community. It's not entirely going to work according to the psyche of the people that live here. But bottom line is, it was much stricter before, in comparison to what they are thinking in the next 1 or 2 weeks, inshallah.
yeah. I mean, the streets are packed anyway. Yeah, everyone's out. Everyone's balling. Everyone's out. You know what I mean? I went out with a mask and gloves on, ballied up. Yeah. Now I'm getting people looking at me thinking like, right, bro, it's over. You know what I mean? Like you're the only guy in town wearing a mask. So I can remember like a couple of weeks ago, it was like a, you know what I mean, deserted town. Like nobody was out. But I think everyone's out now. Everyone's just cooling off a bit, and I'm just waiting for the next mission at Archie's, bro. I'll be honest with you. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I've got my crew waiting as well, bro. we're all just we're all just burger ready right now. And no, I've been after meat, man. I've been after meat the whole month. And okay, I'm gonna lie. I went Gold Star. There's a chicken place, yeah, called Gold Star in town, right? I went there once in the whole month. No, but I promised 1 week, no meat, 1 week, and I went 10 days, and I thought, you're nuts. You're nuts. I feel like a ruler. You know what I mean? It's like I have my own citadel, yeah, and I'm like a ruler of this city, yeah, and I know within the city lives rebels, yeah, and I could only subdue these rebels so much. I have to give them something. Do you get me? That's my nafs. That nafs is a rebel. So I thought, you know what? Either I can try to hack out the whole 30 days, and then after Ramadan, just inqalab, like it's just gonna be a rebellious civil outbreak, civil war within me, and everything's just gonna collapse. And I just thought, why don't I give my nafs something, so you can give, I keep it going another 10 days. So in another 10 days, I'll probably give it a little bit of, something I like. And then obviously Eid. And so that's what I did. I kind of
Bro, the truth is, you are rebellious to the core.
full on, bro. I'm a full on rebel, bro. I'm a pure
That's the
rebel,
truth.
bro.
So you saying that these rebellions or whatever, that's a side issue, bro. Your nature is that. Ain't badi musibat hai.
What can I say? It's true, bro. It's true. You know what I mean? A few stories about me, bro. Like when that rebellious stuff kicks in, yeah, it's hard to hold him back. And
Allah give you
but no, that's the
barakah,
thing, man. I just got to be careful with myself because I didn't actually want it. I was thinking, you know what, I'm all right. But then I thought, now where I push myself to a point where I just think on Eid, I just go all out. Like for the rest of the year, I just remember the torture I went through in Ramadan, and and every time I remember it, I just eat more and more meat. So I just thought, let's just keep it easy, man. Right. So the topic, bro. The topic is educating children in modern times, and we're not talking about a time that's in the future. We're talking about the present. I would consider this, the challenges that we've probably faced right now. We probably never faced them before in terms of the level of distractions that we can introduce our children to every age, even ourselves in adults. So what I wanted to speak about today was fairly a bit of a broader sense of educating children. When I say educating, I don't necessarily mean yeah, I mean, it does include schools and stuff like that. What I mean is trying to get younger people interested in education. That's number one. Number two, obviously, the distractions that we have in our times. How does that affect their learning abilities, learning skills? Also, is there any critique to the way, it's not only the children that are probably are the children victims of any type of system, any type of the way the structure is set in education? You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of, there's some books written out there by Western people that the whole like system of education is more designed to pass exams rather than nurture and try to enhance a person's life. That's why they kind of promote homeschooling a lot more, because to focus on subjects rather than just passing exams and not really really enhancing a person's life. So these are the different many dynamics that I thought of in terms of this topic. But inshallah, as we speak, we can kind of dwell on that. What would you think? What do you think about this topic?
It's a highly important essential topic, naturally, because as parents, as guardians, as those who have been given a particular role to look after or care for, the younger generation, it becomes an obligation upon us to make sure that what we are providing, what we are giving, the environment that we are creating is as nurturing as possible. You understand the sense of development, creating holistic human beings, holistic citizens, right, who have a mental, spiritual, physical dimension to them, which is highly important. Now, but the thing is that, we always say this, we always discuss this topic in the modern sense. All right. But what we usually mean is in the present time. Because the thing is, the concern around, youth development, child development, and the obligation upon the shoulders of the guardians and the parents has been a phenomena from the day parents had children, to be very realistic with you. Right. So I remember, because I tend to have a lot of study around, how, as well as old, when I say old, I mean a few centuries or few millennia old discussions around child development, and how that impacts today in what we call modern education structures, right? What you find is the relationship between both of them is phenomenal. I've read the likes of the works of, for example, Ibn Sina, Ibn Khaldun, or the likes of Al-Farabi, the likes of Al-Ghazali, these type of people, or who've written extensively around child development, child engagement, type of things that should be worked upon, what should be developed, what should be nurtured, things like that. And what you find is that even today, in the modern age, these individuals who as believers, as Muslims, we see as tycoons of knowledge and understanding. But what tends to happen is people only see them through the prism of what? Religion. That's it. And the problem with the concept of only looking through that prism is, in the West, religion is seen something which is closed down in the four walls of the building, right? It's personal. Yeah. Whereas within the context of Muslims, religion, faith, and etc. is part and parcel, a thread which goes through every element of our existence. Right? From development to knowledge to understanding to science to technology to invention to whatever it is. So all of these scholars and many more, which I've just mentioned in front of you, they talked about child development. In fact, they had the same concerns, they had the same worries, right? New phenomena were coming out. Okay, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with those things which are stimulants in a child's mind? How much should they be exposed by? What should the parents do? What should conversation parents should be having around their children, right? When the mother is hamila, when the mother is going through pregnancy, how should be the behavior of the father? Even to the extreme, if you may call this extreme, but to the discussions took place in how the intimacy should be between the husband and the wife, which impacts the child. That's gonna, if God gives them, because that's what our belief is that if God gives them, bestows them with a child, that that even the point of inception or conception, or when the man and woman get together, how that should be done, because that has an impact upon the well-being of the child, the development of the child. You understand the spirit of the child, right? There should be non-involvement of those external powers, which we talk about, the shayateen and etc. It talks about it from that point. So that tells you something, that this issue around development, child engagement, child development, child nurture is an old phenomena.
Yeah.
And it's because God has given these, young people, young human beings into our hands. Many times they're dependent 100% upon the surrounding. There's a social scientist, and of course he's a social psychologist as well, Erik Erikson. He talks about this, and one of the key things he says, the first year from birth to one is so crucial in the child's development, that the child is totally dependent upon the society around it, right? The food, the type of interactions that the child has, the sounds, the tastes, the feeling, and etc. that the child has at this particular time is shocking. And he discusses this in a lot of detail. He goes, it is highly crucial that in this time that the child's whatever they're exposed to is something of nurturing and not harming, right? Something which creates a sense of peace in the child, because we think, oh, they will remember this.
Yeah,
that's what we think as humans, as parents, as guardians. We think, oh, the child will remember this. And then when the child is 10, 12, 13 years old, and the child says that, oh, I remember so-and-so thing. And at the time, the child was only 2 or 3 years old. And you think to yourself, how do you remember that? Because I think the child is developing, and the child's, processes of reflection, thought, understanding is there. We think it's not there, but it is there. This is why you have to be very careful. What you say, how you say, why you say, what they eat, how they eat, how they're nurtured, how they're not nurtured, etc. It has to be kept in mind. So no doubt we are looking in the modern context, but it's also in every era, in every century, right? In every time, it has been a concern, bro.
Yeah, you know what? I always remember this saying from Ibn Sina, when a man came to Ibn Sina and said, can you give me, my wife is pregnant, can you give me some advice to raise a child? And Ibn Sina asked him, how many months is she? And he said 4 months. And he said, you're already too late. When I heard that, I thought, wow. Many people, they just don't understand that raising a child, it starts for us, even for a Muslim, non-Muslim, do you get me? At the end of the day, because a child is going to imitate, a child is an imitating being, by its nature. It's just going to imitate everything that he sees or she sees. And if you haven't developed ourselves first and foremost, then that's affecting the upbringing of the child. And some people think that, I'll start focusing on raising a child when I start educating myself when he gets a bit older, when she or he gets when 7 or 12 or 14, and now, right, that's it, now I'm going to start kicking in. Kids 14 years old, and then before you know it, and even the time of conception, what is a child? At the end of the day, how I see it is, a child is a manifestation of the spiritual reality of two people combined. That's it. Do you get me? Right. That when a woman and a man, husband and wife, come together, they conceive, and whatever reaction takes place at that time is a result of whatever them two are at that time spiritually. That's a manifestation of it. That's what is given birth to. That's it. And then because people want to sort themselves out later, you see. Oh yeah, you know what? And then 25 years later, they're asking Peer Sahib to do something. Do you get me? They're saying Peer Sahib, do you get me? 25 years later, they want peace up to, so, and they're blaming the kid. They're blaming the child. But the child is only unveiling, is like a mirror to them. Partially. Of course, you know what I mean? A child is affected by environment, number one. You know, and there's three things that affect a child that will ultimately decide, or the result of a child will be affected by three things. One, the upbringing. Two, his or her choice. And three, environment. Do you get me? But the thing with the choice, see, how I see it is that the choice of the child is deeply affected by the child's fitrah, by the child's primordial nature, the nature of the child. Obviously, whatever your nature is, you're making decisions according to your nature. If you like something, you'll say, I want it. If you don't like something, you say, I don't want to do it. I don't want it. So that's your nature, liking what you like and what you don't like, what you're inclined towards and what you're not inclined towards. This and you know, and if a child's nature is protected, you know, that primordial nature, which is developed from the age of, from birth, probably even before birth, till, they say, you know, 7. If that's protected, then what the primordial nature of a child is protected now. So as a child is growing up, the decisions he's going to make, it's going to emanate from his core being, which was preserved and protected, that purity is protected. Because a lot of people, obviously, they kind of mistranslate this hadith, that kullu mawludin wulida ala fitra, that every child is born upon fitra. And most people think that means every child is born a Muslim. That doesn't mean that every child is born a Muslim. It says every child is born in a way where they will choose the natural way. That's how every child is given birth to. And the natural way. And so if that's distorted while they're young, well, parents are thinking. And the thing is, they don't have to remember something for it to have an impact upon what you were saying. Yeah, a child might not remember what you did in front of the child when she or he was 6 months old, 3 months old, 1 year old. But the impact of it, remember, it's a clean sheet. It's a clean sheet, it's a clean slate. So whatever you do on it, it's going to leave its impact. And people forget that children, they're just being, their hormonal being is just collecting data at a much faster rate than adults. So whilst they're processing all that information, whatever they see, that's why a child, okay, if the child is not really learning anything, why does the child laugh like his mother or her mother? Why does the child laugh like her father? Because why? Data. That's why a child, because of focus on faces, especially the mother's face, and it starts laughing like the mother. You know, it starts looking like the father. It starts doing expressions like the father when he grows a bit older. Starts off with the mother. At first, he can only, or she can only focus on the mother. So why? Because they just absorbing all this information. Every single thing a child sees, hears, feels, and even your spiritual state. Meaning if you're living even a negative state, right? If you're negative, you're depressed, it will affect the child. Even if you didn't say anything, it will affect the child. You know what I mean? And just being still, you know what I mean? And that, you know, these things, Mohan Sabi, I'm telling you now, man, I have to I don't know if what I'm saying is from another planet. If what I'm saying is, you know, because I've had discussions with people, bro. Yeah, I'm not going to be honest with you. For me, you see, look, all of this that I'm saying, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, look, whatever is input in a child has to be pure, has to be sound. That's it. That's what I'm saying. And then the child, when he becomes to an age when he's going to give output, he's going to give output from what was input. In very basic terms, right? Now, as parents, yeah, what you have to do is you got to make sure, you know, from the age and from what we've learned, right? And obviously you can, you know, this is your field, right? and you've really done a lot of research in this. From what we've learned is the first 7 years are the most crucial, time for the child, and at least those years, all input should be positive, avoiding negative, and as Muslims, it has to be, channeled in a way where it's a contribution for them to prepare them as Muslims. Now, and obviously, which simply means to preserve their purity. Because what I mean by contribute, it doesn't mean indoctrinating them. Do you get me? We might have non-Muslims listening and thinking, what? So you get a child when he's younger? No, what we're saying is we believe Islam is a natural way. We believe that. And it's part of our belief that religion can't be forced upon nobody. So Islam is a natural way. It's a natural way. And if we preserve the natural purity of children, what we believe is that they will naturally choose Islam as a way of religion, because you preserve that natural being. And for me, the biggest thing is this digital age that we're living in. That is the biggest risk. In the sense of there are many other risk factors, but if somebody knocked on, I will pick on that later. But what do you think about that? You've been incredibly quiet there, so.
No, I was just listening to what you are saying regarding. See, you are a concerned parent, right? And you're a parent who wants to protect
no, but I don't
the child
I don't want to speak about this as a parent. I want to speak about this as...
No, let me share something. It's inevitable.
Disagree, no, but I was like this before. I've always been like this.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I was born like this.
No, obviously. No, I'm just saying something. You're a concerned parent, which is right. You're a concerned uncle. You're a concerned, community person. You're concerned about development of children, those people, how we impact them, how they impacted. But you also have to understand is that mollycoddling any child doesn't help the child. Mm-hmm. Whereas all of the child people who deal with child development, people who are child psychologists, people who are psychoanalysts who deal with certain type of the cognitive states of human beings, behaviors of human beings, what they encourage, right, from the likes of I'll give you an example of Jean Piaget, for example, is well known, a psychotherapist as well as a child development, a child psychologist. Now, what they all look at is what is put in the first initial years of a child's development, right? Now, regardless if the parents are of a very harsh temperament, for example, or they may have particular experiences of life, or they're from a certain society or community. Because the thing is, what needs to be understood is that you can't protect your child from the realities of life. Let me share something with you. Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam went to Sayyidah Halima Sa'adiyya radiyallahu ta'ala anha. It's well known, at a very young age. So the initial few years of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam life was spent in a rural environment, away from the city of Makkah. Okay. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went there, and it was the tradition of the Arabs to do this. They did this for a number of reasons. I had to look at this very carefully because naturally this is my interest of child development, looking at what type of input, how should it be done, why should it be done, in which way should it be done. Alhamdulillah, I deal with children from a certain age to whatever age they may be. Now, important thing is this, that at that time they used to concentrate, not only Arab culture, Arab societies did this, other nomadic societies did exactly the same, right? Now, amongst the Arab, this is well known. We know this because it's documented in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes to a rural area, places where there's camels, rearing camels. There's is in the desert, right? It's the desert environment. That's what it was. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to a home right, which was not affluent. He didn't have provisions, okay, provided to him, or facilities provided to him, okay, per se, that we would say on the basis of the child's development would be, on a high level. But what was, because of him going there, because of his miracle, Sayyidah Hadai Halima's home become a better home, things start to work, things start to happen. Do you understand? But initially, it was the environment which the Prophet ﷺ had to get used to, the harshness of rural environments. But the idea was to preserve the child's language, preserves the child's physical being. Because you have to understand, the initial few years are all about sensory. It's about the environment. It's about the child's physical development, oral development, right? And over time, of course, which impacts the psyche, impacts every other element of the child. Now, that's what needs to be kept in mind. But so what you find is that totally plucking out a child and putting it into a environment where they're mollycoddles is not the way to go down. Toddlers, they get up, they get bumped, they get hurt, they get whatever. And the amazing thing is, when you've had a child for 2 or 3 years, or it's your second child, you behave very different to the child that you had your first child. Your first child, you're very, it's going to get hurt. This is going to happen. That's what's going to happen. There's no doubt that the input should be pure. But we're humans. Yeah. As humans, our issue is we are not always thinking straight. We forget. And we have this sense in our heart, we have something in our heart and our mind, so what, the child will forget or whatever will happen. What we're saying is that you need to be slightly more careful. That's all it is. You have to be real about this as well, bro. You can't expect something which as human beings we can't do. We can't do. Because you have to understand, we are trying to create a holistic human being.
Yeah.
Right? Let me share something with you. Look, we send our children, let me tell you something else. So we talk about childcare, for example. Now, a lot of the time, people are like, no, parents should do childcare, and they are the one who should be looking after the children, and they're the one who should be nurturing the children. No doubt, that's obligation upon us. There's no doubt about that. All right?
Yeah.
Because you have the children, you have to look after them, no doubt. But I'll tell you something. Ibn Sina, right, in Qanun, he says so beautifully, he goes, he didn't disagree with the idea of someone else nurturing your child. He didn't have that problem. He goes, sometimes there are certain things parents cannot provide. Okay, and it can happen because of maybe lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, do not have a similar understanding of how development works, and etc. You have that in life. But there's a condition that he makes. The condition that he makes is the person that you are entrusting your child to, they better know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They better know what they're going to feed your child. Now, that feeding is, of course, the food, as well as on the basis of sensory, audio, type of information that's going to be processed by the child, right? Mm-hmm. Now, nowadays, we entrust our children to care workers or child care workers and etc., which many of them are amazing. They do some amazing work, and it does release and help parents. There's no doubt about that. But before you do that, go and do your research. Who are they? What do they teach you? Right? What type of information are they giving? What type of stimulants are around the child at that time? Don't just plunk your child into their hands and say, all right, see you around. Don't do that. Think about it. This is what we're trying to say. We're not saying create a totally, sanitized environment, right? 100%. That's exactly how it's got to be. Look, Adeen, Shariat is very, very practical. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's very practical. Our deen is practical, right? It understands the nuances of life. It understands the circumstances, situations of people's life. But then it says, listen, in them circumstances, try to find the best solution.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's what I'm trying to say.
When you say like trying to find the best solution, this concept like what you're saying is like I wasn't saying like mollycoddle, keep them wrapped up in bubble paper or like don't let them come out but I think some people get that twisted a bit personally, bro. Yeah, it's like look, when you're in the army, they prepare you for the war. They just don't throw you in battle. Do you get me? Yeah, there's got to be a preparation. There's got to be a nurturing. There's got to be you got to grow, right? I personally, not only believe, but from what I've heard, researchers and teachers say that, look, the first essential years, it's not a time to put them through the test of, what? Because I've heard people say that, bro, and it frustrates me a bit, where, they're going to come across it anyway. Might as well make them come across it now. Do you get me? So they're going to see bad anyway. So why don't they just see bad now? Because they're going to come across it anyway. And for me, that's a very flawed argument. Do you get me?
It is. That's very preposterous way of looking at it. Let me just say something here. What needs to be understood... No, it is. But what needs to be understood here is this. The child, you have to input information and things, audiovisual, in front of the child according to the child's development. Right? According to the internal, external development, psychological development. If you're going to expose a child to something which in reality of their own experience should be exposed maybe 4 years in the future, it will definitely leave an impact. And not a positive one, usually a negative one.
Yeah, most likely.
I've come across young children. Let me share something. I've come across young children, especially in our day and age today, having phones and having other means of accessing family and stuff like this. We spoke about this before, very briefly on a different subject altogether, on the basis of addiction. But exposed to nudity, for example, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, okay, 6-year-olds, and mainstream organizations that deal with, children being impacted with this type of material, the children become traumatized. It leaves a very deep gash in their psyche, right? They feel inadequate. They feel, oh my God, what is that? And then over time, what happens is that sense of, which is not real, they start to look at that as the way it should be, right? That impacts the way they look at a gender. They look at other human beings, right? In that particular way. So this is why highly is important. I think that's a very flawed way of looking at with people, individuals who say, yeah, they're going to get exposed to this anyway. No, we're not saying that. We're talking about, what we are trying to say is, in the natural processes of development, what your child comes through, right? Don't mollycoddle from that, in that. Don't do that. The bumps and the falls and the whatever, these type of stuff.
Yeah, that's part of...
That's what I mean. So be a bit more relaxed about this. Be more relaxed about it. But naturally, things like which are very extreme, which impact the
look, you just
psyche.
use the term extreme now. Yeah. Now extreme is relative to the one who's bloody translating it. Bro, I am seen as extreme. I'm telling you now, I'm seen as extreme. When I said, look, listen, guys, yeah. When I say extreme, I'm talking about, look, you got to keep your kids away from TV. You got to keep your kids away from phones. You got to keep your kids away from iPads. You got to keep your kids from, these Androids. You got to keep your kids away as much as you can. Yeah? You got from any type of, screen watching and all of these things. And like some people, bro, some of my own friends will be like, Saf, that's a bit too much. How can you do that? I was having a discussion with it last week, bro. Do you get me? With one of my friends, yeah? And, I was just discussing about, computer games and stuff like that. And he was like, look, man, you can't. And obviously, look, it's, some people just think it's black and white. It's not black and white. Do you get me? Yeah. There's a process. It's damage control, basically. It's damage control. And you've got to be very proficient at understanding how much can I give now? How much can I give now? How much can I give now? Do you get me? Rather than just giving everything. Or they're going to get exposed to it anyway. We can't then let them be people that, who don't know how to engage with technology. So He's the iPod, he's the iPhone. 3-year-olds addicted to mobile phones, bro. And adults don't think it's addiction, but it is addiction. We spoke about this last time we did a show on addiction, that it's addiction. And how unfair, and it's not just not Sarfraz Salim saying something. Look, this is scientifically proven that YouTube, all of these channels, are psychologically developed in a way by, they got psychologists behind these machines, and they design them in the way where they do become addictive. You mean chemically addictive for children. And that's why a child, look at the biggest views on YouTube, bro. Look at children programs, bro. They have the highest views on YouTube. Why? Because they keep watching the same thing again and again and again and again and again to release that stimuli. You know what I mean? And people don't understand that. You know what I mean? That how effective that is. So we ourselves put our children in a situation where they become addicted to something. And then, okay, obviously, it's not like crack. But what I'm saying is it's a minor form of addiction. Do you get me? Yeah? Why do you think the child starts crying and screaming if they're not getting the phone? Because they don't know how to handle that emotion. Okay, as they grow older...
Withdrawal symptoms, isn't it?
We
call it withdrawal symptoms. That's what tends to happen when something is removed from an individual. That's how they react.
And once they get bored of... Okay, now cartoon is no longer releasing that chemical in their brain. Dopamine. No, now cartoons are no longer releasing it, or whatever is on YouTube now. Yeah, for kids. So they want something else. As they grow older, they know how it feels to experience that now. So once they get to a point, then, once they become 14, it's not going to be cartoons, is it? It's going to be something else they're going to be searching for to fulfill that same thing that they've had since they were young, since they were babies. And that's how they get exposed to a whole entire new other world. Do you get what I'm saying? This affects their pace of education, their learning. What I said to my mate to conclude, yeah? I said, you bring me one research, yeah? If I'm so wrong, or if this understanding is so wrong, bring me one research that says TV is good for the child. Do you get me? iPad is awesome for the children. Yes, there are programs on these phones and on these iPads and stuff like that do, I would say, facilitate education. Do you get me? But it's not better than the original, which is you teaching your child. Do not get that twisted. It is not better than you or a human being, a teacher, teaching your child. Optimally you. Because it's creating a bond between parent and child. You know what I mean? That bond making is very essential. So it's not to replace you in a positive way. Okay, you've decided to replace yourself. And then you can say, yeah, okay, it's got some benefits. But don't think it's a bigger benefit than YouTube. Nowhere near. It's got many negatives and then there's some positives. You know what I mean? And you just got to damn hope, right? Because there is a minority, right? There is a minority statistically that it ends up affecting them in a very bad way down the line in future. It does end up affecting them. They get addicted. They get, their learning ability is affected because of screen watching. Scientifically proven screen watching is not good for the child's brain. Scientifically proven. All these things are scientifically, proven. So, and there's a minority it's going to go very wrong for. And you just got to pray and hope that we are not that minority. That your child is not that minority. Because for you, it's not going to be a minority if you're a parent. That's your whole world right there. Do you get me? And is it worth the risk? Are you willing to take the chance? That's my personal understanding of this. Do you get me? And obviously this is it comes from the Prophet ﷺ said, look, the first 7 years, la'ibuhum. Play with them. And what's amazing about that is play with them. It's not let them play.
Yeah. Play with your children. Yeah.
It's play with your children. It's not let them play. Which is two different things. You know what I mean? And then, adibuhum, sab'an. Discipline them. Teach them. Give them order. Teach them boundaries. Teach them that, you transgress these rules.
Educate them of rules and regulations.
Exactly.
Right? Halal, haram, right, wrong, good, bad.
That's it.
The 7 years till 14. Then the last 7 years that is associated is that now befriend them. In other words, your role is advisory. Let them make their mistakes, let them fall and stand up, and you become more supportive role till 21. And after that, they're responsible for their lives. Look, that's a standard. All psychologists say the same thing. In Jean Piaget looked at play theory, for example, right, which is one of the foundation theories of child development in modern education. Okay, now he says the same thing. His education, his understanding is exactly the same. Right. Sometimes I think Jean Piaget has stripped a lot of information, etc., from Ibn Sina. That's my observation. But anyway, that's a side issue. But what I'm saying is that all individuals who have looked at child development, they look at it from exactly from this perspective. Okay, and those who are listening, those who are parents and guardians and care for children, these are the things that they see on a daily basis. Okay, let me share something with you. I came across in Adab al-Mufrad something very good. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan entrusted the teaching of his children to Ashabi, and he said to him, a teacher, an educator, and he says something. He goes, teach them poetry so that they will possess dignity and vigor. Because at this time, the sense of poetry did what? It developed the language, right? And it developed imagination. Okay. Now, I don't disagree that there are certain types of technological advances, okay, which have a negative impact, especially if it's detached from a human being, right? So your emphasis on the parents' involvement is huge, because child, right, what it shows is, especially in the initial first from birth, from 2 to about 4 or 5, the child is observing continuously, right? And especially from 1 to 2, the child is all about, the eyes are open, okay, they are soaking in everything, right? What is that from? So they look at the way the parents talk, they look at the way the parents behave, they look at the way guardians, if they've got brothers and sisters, how they engage with them. And it's also the tactical, being tactile, touching. People forget that children they want to. What do children do? How do they experience the world? They pick up something, they stick into their mouth. Look, pick up something. They pick up something. They pick up something. They stick into their mouth. Now, why did they do that? Because the sensory element in the mouth is huge. So then the way they're learning is by putting stuff into their mouth, right? Now, this needs to be kept in mind when the relationship between the child and the mother, when the mother is, feeding the child, okay, or suckling the child at that particular time. That relationship, them moments are highly important, right? The question is, what is the mother doing at that time? Is she a bit of a drinker? Is she a bit of a smoker? Is she, on the phone just talking, la da 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 da, whatever she's doing? You can do that in your own private time, but that's a very intimate time between the child and the mother. Okay. Now that needs to be also be kept in mind on the basis of child development. So, like I was saying, he goes, Abu Malik, Ibn Marwan, he goes to the teacher. He goes to him. You got to teach him poetry to create dignity and vigor. Then he goes, feed them meat so that their heart will be strong. So not only that he wanted to develop the psychological and auditory or oral, abilities, right? Or the sense of the world, sense of imagination of the child, but also what? The inner self. That's also an obligation. What are you feeding your children? So I remember watching a video, and there was a general. This was in Pakistan. There was a general who was giving a lecture, and during his lecture, it started to pour down rain, and all the listeners were sitting there. And he goes, they started to get up and trying to find shelter. And this is a figure of speech. He goes, जिस अपनी मां ना दूध पीते है वो बैठा रोवे, तो जिस गां ना दूध पीती है वो खिसके. Right? No. But that tells you something here.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, someone else said, he goes, "Jisne dabbe na dudh peete hai, wo kiska hai?" You know.
Yeah.
No. So the intake is as crucial, right? So when you give your child what to eat, what to drink, think about what you're giving them, which has a which is developing the child physically, right? So then, and the last point, he goes, cut off the one of the last things he says is cut off their hair so that their necks will be strong. And we know from the base of the physical self, what is hair? Hair is the removal of many toxins from the body. That's what hair is. The growing of your nails and the growing of your hair, that's what it's doing. It's one of the forms of removing toxins from your body, right? So when a child is very, very young, when you cut the child's hair, right, you are strengthening this aspect of the child, the neck of the child. You're developing that side to it. Okay? It's not only, okay, my son's going to go into the barbers and, you know what, I'm going to get the latest haircut on him and it's going to say David Beckham right there. Bro.
Beckham, mate.
Whatever it is. But there's hikmat behind it. And then he says, make them sit. Now this is crucial. Make them sit with men of distinction who will contradict them in words. Look at that, bro. Who will contradict them. In other words, challenge them. Now we live in times where everybody is, oh yeah, you know, you shouldn't challenge people anymore. You shouldn't, you know, push them slightly and this and that. You shouldn't do. No. In development, in human development, this is essential. May that be physical challenge, or may that be a spiritual challenge, or may that be, a mental challenge. You know, we do puzzles all the time, don't we? For mental development, what do? Mental exercises, which stress the mind. That's the same thing that's been said here in our Adab al-Mufrad. And it's very, look what he wants from the teacher's involvement. It's not one-dimensional. It's not only the kid going to the masjid, Salama Razaka Fataha, Nasara Salama Razaka Salama Fataha. It's not only that, is it? It's much greater of education, learning, nurturing. This is education. This is learning. This is true nature. Right? Or nurturing. And a holistic approach. This is what we're saying. Is that when you are only one-dimensional, it doesn't work. Because the father says, yeah, I take my kids to football every week, bro. Yeah, that's true. So you've done the physical side. But within that process, what else are you teaching them?
Exactly.
I'm a youth worker, bro. I'm a qualified youth worker. And one of the key things I learned in interaction with children, or young people, was this, that, play. Recreational activity is one of the best ways to educate people.
Play.
Is what you teach when they're chilling.
Play there?
Sorry?
Did you say play there?
Yeah.
Oh, play. I thought you said clay, like molding.
No. See, that's another side. Yeah, alhamdulillah. But we're talking about play. We're talking about the engagement that you have with young people, right? It has to be in the amount of recreational. What you can give in, for example, you take your kids to football, cool. Take them to football, take them to cricket, take them to hockey, take them to basketball, or whatever it is that you do, yeah? Go and do that. But through that process, they have to also see you, what you are. Your status, your position, your way of engagement. This, remember,
if you're effing and jeffing on the road, road rage because you're getting late for football, yeah? Effing move out the way, this and that, yeah? And then he's just thinking, yeah, okay, football it is then, innit? So true, bro. It's so true what you're saying, man. Because I think what people forget is, children will take on the spiritual nature of a person wherever they're at. It's like, whose mother was it now? I think it's one of the grandsons of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. When his mother would tie his turban for him, she would say to him, before he would go to class, she would say to him, take from the teachers, take from his hilm before you take from his ilm.
His ilm, yes.
Take from his clemency, take from his hilm, his this kind of forbearance, before you take from his knowledge. You mean because ultimately the child is taking much more than what you're saying. You know what I see it like this one, Sab. What do you want your child to be? Write down. You know what they say is a good exercise is to write down. You know, there's 3 dimensions to every single person: the physical dimension, the spiritual dimension, and the rational dimension. Yeah, it's a 3 dimension of man. And write down what you want your child to achieve. You know, end up by his adult life, physically. Then write down what do you want him to achieve or be spiritually, and write down what you want him to achieve or be rationally. Do you get me? And work backwards from there. And then write down what do you have to do to achieve what you want them to achieve physically. So if you might want them to be a martial artist, it's a good sound, thing. Yeah, you want them to be a martial artist, to be martially very strong, be able to defend themselves, protect their family, physically strong, So what do you have to start doing now to achieve that then? You want them to be spiritually strong. If a person's a Muslim, you want them to be educated. You want them to have love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You want them to have this fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want them to be able to be a positive member of the community. You want them to help people. You want them to be a good family member. You want them to protect the weak, help the poor, vagara vagara, yeah. And then intellectually, okay, where then because we only have really one. People just have one. That's intellectually. What degree like if there's any hopes for any child, it's just I want them to be educated so they can get a good job or whatever. Which is definitely one dimension, which what we call rationally. Do you get me? Another Muslim, it's like now, my little one's 2. But even now when we start books, we start with Bismillah. Everything has to be for the sake of Allah. A child shouldn't go to school. He shouldn't go to nursery. He shouldn't go to anywhere. You shouldn't seek any type of knowledge that's not for the sake of God, to get closer to God. And any knowledge can get you closer to God. Do you get me?
Of course you can.
But it's the intention behind it. So you write these things and then write the pathway, write down what the child has to achieve for or what you have to do for them to achieve that. And I always, what I was going to say, my point was that whatever you want them to be, the first 7 years, however you want them to be, for instance, from post 7 to 14, you want to discipline them. You want them to be able to stick within boundaries, rules and regulations, like you were saying. Post 7, yeah, you can start implementing that. Pre 7, you be that.
100%.
You be that role model. Be that. If you want your child to be praying at the age of 14, you best have been praying for 14 years of his life. If you want him to, be into fitness, if you want him to be physically fit, you best be interested in keeping yourself physically fit. Whatever you want your child to be, first and foremost, you be that. Don't even tell them to do it. Don't ever 2-year-old trying to make a child pray. What the hell? What's your problem? Do you get me? You pray. Do you get me?
The children imitate. Look,
yeah, exactly.
This is the whole process of child development. Children imitate, right? They imitate what they see. They imitate what they're exposed to. That's given. Now, if the imitation is you're a bit of a dosser, you can't be bothered with things and etc. like that, you will get that from your child. We have this sense. We send our children to the masajid, for example, right? There are some parents who never turn up. I'm telling you now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 down the line, your child is going to say to you, I don't go masjid. Why don't you go?
Yeah.
Why don't you go? What's the reason why you don't go? And let me share with you, we as parents might be whatever to the world, but where we are tested on the highest level, where we lose our status, position, etc., is when it comes to our own blood and flesh. And look, You 100%, bro. The time, if you want something out of someone, you got to put it in them. It's like saying you do your own duty. That's our duty. If we've bestowed with children, look, Prophet ﷺ said, "Akram awladukum wa ahsanu adabukum." Respect children and teach them good manners and behavior. There's an account of at the time of Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he was Khalifat al-Muslimin. And what a phenomenal account. This father comes and complaining to as a Amir al-Mu'mineen that my son is a disobedient. He hits me and he's disobedience towards me. Hazrat Umar Farooq said, what? How dare he? Your own child that you look after, he will do this against you. Call him to my court. So he's brought into the court of Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he listens to the allegation upon him that you are disrespectful towards your father, you are dishonorable towards your father, you harm your father. Are these all allegations true? And he said, it is true. The child says to Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu anhu, it is true. And then, of course, now is the hukum of saza, of punishment for him. He goes, before you give the order for my sanction that's going to take place, can I ask something? He goes, yeah, please ask. You have that right. He goes, I want to find out if I have any rights as a child. As Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala states 4. There are many. There's many that you find in the context of Rasulullah ﷺ, and of course later on the ulama and mashayikh who have scholars who have elaborated on the words of Rasulullah ﷺ. But he states 4. And number 1 is that your mother is Imra as-Salih or Salihah, a pious woman, right? Who has the sense of right and wrong. Okay? Number 2 is that you are given a beautiful name which impacts your psyche as a human being. So you have an honorable name. Okay. Number 3, that you are given education of right and wrong, halal, haram, good and bad. And finally, he says, when it's your turn to get married, right? Or the child's turn is to get married, that you are also found a spouse which is righteous and has the sense of right and wrong. He says to Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, my mother is Imra Ashari, this woman of the street. That was a very polite term for a woman who's a prostitute. My name is a type of a dog. The only knowledge I have, right, is how to look after sheep. So the way I discipline my sheep is with a stick. That's all I know. I'm not at the age of marriage. What do you think Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala did then? He looked at the father. And he goes to his father, you've not done anything. You've not put anything in the pot. I'm putting words into his mouth now. He didn't say exactly them words. You have not fulfilled your own responsibility. You have not done what was required from you as a father. Take your complaint and take your son out of my court. Now, there are so many lessons to be learned just from that one account. No doubt. There are numerous accounts where the violation of parents' rights are done, where the parents have fulfilled the rights of the children, and etc. Right? That's not what we're discussing here. What we're discussing is the responsibility. Agar gur paoge, meetha hoga na.
Good power.
I remember a quote. Let me give you this quote. I remember a quote by Pope John Paul once said, and he goes, if you want love to pour out of someone, pour love into them first. I'm paraphrasing, yeah. Now, pour love into them first and then draw out love from them. Do your duty. Let's do our duty. That's all is required from here. That's what's being asked from here. If afterwards they turn away, they don't want to know you, they don't want to speak to you, that could be a different reason. It just basically could be they're a teenager. See, that's a
Yeah.
whole other area of discussion of how do you deal with them, how do you engage with them. But when they're younger, you gotta do your job.
I think we should do a program on dealing with adolescent.
Agreed.
You mean just for that specific 14 plus age?
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, it's true, man. How were you when you were a kid? Were you ever put
Yeah, as a child,
were you put
Nepal is
bro,
my.
or were you sit there, Thani? Or were you neither,
As a
bro?
putta bhi khada, siddha. So as a putta bhi khada, siddha bhi khada.
Bro,
What it is, you gotta understand, Akhil Aziz. All of us go through certain experiences, yeah. Some have plenty, some don't have plenty, whatever it is. The basic thing is, you as a child have a good nurturing environment. Because if you have an environment which is very oppressive, right, that leaves a very deep mark upon the child. If it is too relaxed, that also leaves an impact. There has to be a balance. Children, they're always pushing the barrier, the limits.
yeah,
They're always pushing the limits. And a lot of parents, as parents, we get frustrated. And the reason we get frustrated is because the type of, and you need to understand, look, everyone has their own understanding of parenting, for example, right? Now, majority of us, we imitate parenting. We have imitational parenting, right? We don't have educational parenting. We have imitational parenting. And who have we imitated? Our elders. And how
you know,
they,
it's a
how
common saying.
they
It worked. It
parented.
worked for us. It worked for us.
No. We always say, every generation says that it worked for us. Question is, what has it worked?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? What has it worked? Worked what?
Exactly.
Right? It's worked. ठीक है जी. असम पांच वक्त नमाज पढ़ने हैं. ठीक है जी. No problem. That's good. Alhamdulillah, according to the knowledge, information that they had, all right, they've done their job. I don't disagree with that. We honor them, we love them, we care for them, we do everything. We're trying to walk a path straight and narrow. No problem with that. But in human development, we stay in the mother's womb for 9 months, not for our physical development, for our mental development. We're the only creature, we're the only species that does that long. Right? Now that's a big thing. That tells you something. That there's a reason why the human species has been given the dominance of the world. No other creature has that. And what is it? The capacity, what this can do, is phenomenal. Look what he has already done in the world. What is developed, how he has revived, how he has, technologically, medically, scientifically, psychologically, socially, spiritually, we have developed all from this thing here. All this thing here, that's it. It's not enough. I'm sorry, it's not enough to say, "Theek asan theek on."
No, you can't, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
First and foremost, if you're good today, you are good because as a Muslim, you have to believe any good from you today is because it's from the mercy of God. You've done nothing. You've done nothing. To get me, don't you think that what you've done today, or whatever we're doing that we think that's good, is from ourselves. It's not from ourselves. It's not from you. Because I know many a man, if God didn't save me, I would be amongst another crowd.
I say the same thing.
Another situation. My circumstance will be totally different. So what I'm saying is, I know there's many people out there that, have become the robbers, the drug dealers, the fornicators, the suppliers, the pimps. And I'm saying this on the real here. These people exist in our community. Yeah? And if God didn't help us to do certain decisions at a certain point of our life, then it could have gone radically wrong for us. It could have gone radically different for us. So the thing is, see, obviously every parent does something wrong. That's just natural. No parent's gonna get everything right. That's impossible. Do you get me? Life is not a textbook, man. It's not a bloody, oh yeah, I read this, I am this. It doesn't work like that. Do you get me? And especially raising children. But you can't ever think that, it worked with us. No, look, we got away, luckily, from certain things. And as well as that, there are many wrongs within us already. Do you get me? There are many, many wrongs within us today, within me, that I don't want my child to have. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, you've got to, you can't have this arrogant position where it's arrogance. It's arrogance to think like that. Oh, you worked with us, I'm alright. I'm okay. Oh, from whose judgment? Who made that judgment for you? Have you asked the angel of death that, listen, when you take my life, what are you going to say? Khabis or tayyib? What are you going to call me? Foul or are you going to call me foul or pure? Alright, I'm pure, alright, okay, I'm alright. How do you know? How do we know our ending? We don't know where we're at. We don't know where we're at with God. And yeah, now our parents, you mean?
Yeah, let me take this discussion down some other area at this moment in time, which is highly important on the positive basis, yeah? One is to be kept in mind, every child is an individual. And they are a unique miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? There's no doubt about that. When you and I are bestowed with a child, and let me be clear, that doesn't have to be someone who's come through your own loins. It could be, a nephew or a niece. It could be a foster child or, a child that you're looking after. You understand? It doesn't matter who the child is, right? Or you're a teacher or you're a carer or whatever you are. You have young people that you look after, you care for. And what all people who engage with children, especially at larger numbers, they will tell you, so primary school and nursery and say, teacher will say, children develop a very unique individual identity. There's a social element. There is a collective identity. There's no doubt about that, right? When they comply with rules and regulations, stuff like that. But there's also an individual one. See, one of the areas in education has always been that you can't use the same measure sticks with everybody. Some people are audio. They prefer listening to things to process. Some are visual. Yeah. They like seeing things and processing. But there are some which are kinesthetic. The tactile. They want to get up. They want to physically do things. Do you understand? Some people are just ratta qualification. Daraba, Nasara, Fatah, whatever it is. That works for them. But what it is that because there are different type of learners, visual, physical, social, solitary, logical, verbal, oral, there's a different way, 7, 8 different styles of learning, yeah? Now, all of them demand a different type of engagement. Get to know your children. Understand your children. And the beautiful thing is, once you start doing that, you start your own style of interaction with the child changes. It develops a complete different side to you as a parent. So your child might be, for example, if you want to teach him, I'll give you a simple example. I was teaching my daughter, letters or Arabic letters and things like that. Yeah. I started to realize that she's very visual as a student. So what I've done is that I made it visual for her. I would write it in a certain style, make it a bit more colorful and etc. And then I would make a game out of it. Okay. By putting that, the amount of time it took her to sit down and learn, it reduced it by 75%. By doing it, by becoming a game. It reduced it. But I had to learn that. I had to get to know her, right? Which is not always easy because children are always pushing barriers. You got to understand that they're also always pushing their limitation. They've got to. This is development. It's a process of them becoming an adult, trying to sense the world, understand the world. They're pushing barriers. They will test you as a parent. They will test you as your mother, as a father. They're going to do that. But the important thing is to also understand is, what is your child? How well do you know them? what works for your child, right? What type of learner are they? What type of seeker are they?
And
Okay,
I feel
this
like
is
as if
crucial stuff.
I feel like as if the school doesn't. I mean, schools. I think we should just do another show on just modern, schools, in the sense of, is the education system or school and the education system, the way the education system is applied, how is it? Because there's many. I've read a few books on this that critique it quite well, and I just go. It just fits with me, right? In the sense of, it makes sense to me. I do believe that children are unique. It's like, look, I could only speak from my own experience, yeah? It's like what I said to you once before on some other show, yeah? That my report every year would start the same. Safraz is a very bright and intelligent boy. However, he gets distracted very easily. Right, I had attention problems, yeah? You mean, look, Mola Sab, it might come to your surprise, yeah? I was a bit of a popular guy in school. Do you get me, yeah? You mean, I was a popular guy in college, school. You mean, people wanted my attention. You know what I mean? That ain't my fault. You mean, look at this face here, bro. People wanted my attention, yeah? And that's not necessarily my fault. You know what I mean? And okay, I used to.
That's my fault.
Yeah, right? Okay, in the class.
I love you, man. I love you.
Okay. In the class, I would I was a bit loud. I would say that, but that's not my fault either. That's called confidence. Do you get me? Yeah? It's called confidence, and I like to articulate myself. You know what I mean? So, I had but anyway, all my reports always started the same, yeah? And it's like, for instance, and like I said, whichever faults I had, no teacher said, look, it was always detention, suspension, internal exclusion. That was my life, bro. Honestly, I'm not joking. Yeah. And you know what, bro? I was intelligent in school. After that, I don't know what happened. But what I'm saying is, in school, I'm only joking. In college, I did all right. Yeah. In school, I did all right. But I had the brains for it. Yeah. It was just never picked on. It wasn't because I was part of a crowd. You see. Yeah, I was part of a crowd, and they were like, he's part of that. Birds with the same feather flock together. Yeah, and he I came out with all right results, which could have been better. But the point is, I wish somebody said to me, Saf, you're creative, you man. You got creativity. Let's work on it. You get distracted very easily. Let's work on it. Let's work on your focus levels. It was always that. At the end of the year, I just got a report that told me how I did all year. And I was like, why wasn't I told this before, during the year? Do you get me? Why did you sit down? If this was my issue, why didn't you sit me down instead of telling my dad, right? Why didn't you sit me down and tell me, look, Saf, you're not daft, but you have these issues. How can we help you? We can give you a solution. Look, my parents aren't going to come out with solutions. They're not teachers. They're not professionals. Do you get me? You're telling my parents, what do you expect my parents to do? What can they do? Obviously every parent's just going to do what they think that's best. Do you get me? Yeah? But you're a professional. You're a professional teacher. Come out with a solution. I was never told how to study at home, honestly. Never told. I was just given homework. We were just given homework. Given a timetable. The important, how to structure your time, how to manage your time. These things we were never taught. Do you get me? Maybe it's relative for me. I don't know if it's a school system or whatever it is. It's like once, I tell you now, original writing in English. Now look, now we make documentaries, a script write. Look what's next to me. Bro, can you see this? Is it back with front to back? 642 things to write about. This is what my days go. I just write. I like writing. I enjoy writing. I like being creative. I just when I have a free 3 minutes, I just open this book and look, choose how you will die. Right? Yeah. Subhanallah. Right? And I write about it. You mean what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? I write about it. I like writing. In school, original writing, GCSEs. I had to write a story. Everybody else writing 3-4 pages stories. Yeah. How big was my world? 30 pages.
Wow.
30 pages, bro. Yeah. I come home and I love doing it. I thought, oh, I love this. I was writing a whole movie, bro. It was a story, it was a damn movie, bro. Yeah. And I did it. And honest to God, bro, like it was 30 pages, back and front. So total 60 pages. Yeah. I can remember, because I can remember writing page 27 and I thought, wow. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every single minute of writing that story. Loads of spelling mistakes. Got a D in it because of the spelling mistakes. Yeah. Point is, it shows you love writing stories.
Yes.
You like writing stories. That's it. Do you get me? Right. Let's work on it. Yeah, let's work on it. We found you. All these years, this was my last year. I was seen as whatever. Yeah. Saf, we finally found out like what you enjoy. I had to find out I enjoyed media, filming, script writing and all this stuff later on in life, like now, recently, in recent times in life. Do you get me? And then from there, I went to college. What did I start doing in college? I started doing media. No. I was doing law. I did legal studies. I passed in it, yeah? Right? Advanced, yeah? I passed in it. But it wasn't what I wanted. But my hobby was media. I used to edit music. Where's my keyboard gone? I took it upstairs. Do you get me? Right? I used to do music, my hobby, part-time. And I used to study songs, bro. Do you get me? Yeah? Nobody said to me then, Saf, this is your thing. I just never knew it. It's only down the road when obviously I've become something else, an MOT tester, helped out with my family business, and then all that. I realized, I like being creative, man. You know who told me? My sheikh told me, bro. Honest to God, my sheikh told me. He said, Saf, I did one edit in front of you, and he said, and it's crap. And I was watching it yesterday, yeah? And he watched it and he goes, Saf, this is your thing. This is where you gotta go. And I was like, Sheikh, it's just a hobby. He goes, no. He goes, this is your thing. And this is where it needs to go. You need to do this full time. They go, you need to do this. You need to go ahead in it. And now I'm earning a living from that. Do you get me? But as well as that, I'm doing everything else as well. But my point is, look, if schooling worked for me, I would have been told in school that stuff. You like writing stories. You could be a script. That I didn't know there's such thing as a script writer.
That is true.
Do you get what I'm saying? I love writing scripts. I love writing. Do you get me? And I always felt like as if just because I'm not an A-star student, you're stupid. And unfortunately, you get put in sets. Let you know you're in set 4, by the way. You know what that means, aren't you? Do you get me?
Yeah, boxed.
You're in a box, bro. You're writing to pass exams, man. And I'm just so not into it. I'm just so not into it.
This is what I'm saying, stuff, innit? No, I agree with you. See, I empathize with you fully, completely. And I think if we end on this would be a really good point that, at least on this point of discussion, that education, it is an individual approach. Yeah. You have to look at the positive aspects of an individual. Alhamdulillah, compared to maybe about 15, 20 years ago, maybe slightly longer, the attitude towards education within the education structure has changed. You have much more, you have different methods of different pathways of learning. They look at some people who are very tactile type of individuals, so they'll go down a slightly different path. Some people are very academic, they'll go a slightly different path. Do you understand? It has done that through the education, but there is still a flaw. The flaw is that there tends to be, we have a sense of assessment or examination. Some people only live for examinations or assessments. The purpose behind the assessment was, okay, how much are you progressing? But that becomes the pitfall. People only live for that. Knowledge becomes stifled. Information just becomes stifled. You learn for the sake of learning. That's what it is. And especially honing into someone's positivity, positive sense, what they like, what they dislike, if they are creative, if they are very imaginative, if they are people who are, see, this is one of the main areas that when people say, when talk about Muslims and Islam and everything, they go, oh, they can't do music, or they can't do drama, or they can't do this, they can't do that. You go, no, they could do everything. There's nothing wrong with that. Of course, there's a rule, there's regulation, there's limitation, you have all of that within the context of Sharia, but no one has said you can't do this, you can't do this. No one has ever said that. Knowledge is for everybody. It doesn't matter what knowledge it is. Because the thing is, You have to hone into and tap into who you are as an individual, or someone says that to you. And alhamdulillah, look, there I durustai, your sheikh shed light onto that, and he said, you know what, this is you. I'm telling you now, if you were my student, I would have jumped on it. I would have said, bro, this is you.
I
And
am
this
your
is what's
student, bro.
important. No, Allah give you barakah, inshallah. But I'm just saying is that there is that, you know, back in the day, but I'm saying if that was, you hone into that because you see certain qualities and abilities. And this is the same thing for parents. This is the same for family in your home. You may have 3 or 4 or 5 children. Not all of them are the same. Everyone knows that. Some are very creative, some are very hands-on, some are very engaging. You have children who will work with their mom and dad. They'll go into the kitchen, boys and girls. All right, they work in the kitchen. They start doing chapati. They start learning that. They want to learn. Then you have other children. They'll be like, I can't be bothered with this. That tells you something about that child. Enhance that. Use that. Work with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think, alhamdulillah, there's a number of areas that we touched on. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept that, inshallah ta'ala. Allah give us tawfiq, inshallah ta'ala, to engage. And I believe, inshallah, if there's much more interest in this, we will elaborate even more in the coming
Yeah, I mean, such a big topic.
It is. It's a developmentary topic. It's a topic of our children, our future. You understand? And alhamdulillah, being a faith community, right? There's always our concern about, okay, this modern things happen, or this new phenomena has come out, or whatever. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? So it's always good to be informed about what's going on. Is it bad? Is it good? And how do we deal with that? May Allah give us tawfiq, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair, Mawlana Sahab, and appreciated your input there. It was very, very beneficial, and definitely you shed a lot of light on a lot of different aspects there. Like I said, we can talk about it more, and I think we can even break it down to different parts of upbringing. If there is a demand like that, and inshallah we will start holding in on more specific parts of upbringing, children, teenagers, and then finally or young kids, toddlers, children, and then teenagers, and we can develop it to that if people want. Jazakumullah khair, everybody, for listening in, tuning in. Jazakumullah khair, Mawlana Sahab, and we will be back on
Saturday.
Saturday. What day is it today? Saturday. Yeah, that's it, man. We'll be back on a Saturday, and I believe we're gonna choose a topic, yeah, and we'll give a little announcement out on Friday, I say, just what we're gonna talk about, and so that's it. That's all for tonight. All right, enjoy your nights. Ramadan Kareem.
Allahu Akram.
Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna ya Kareem. Allah forgive us. Last second 10 days of Ramadan, make them about forgiveness. Pray for me, pray for my family, pray for myself. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
And for us as well. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.